Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it, man. I'm going to move this up because I want to keep drinking coffee because I'm really tired. It's all good. That works. How you guys doing today? Anybody got birthdays in July? Birthdays? Yeah? All right, so what's your name? Jim. Jim is going to be accepting birthday gifts today and for the rest of the week. So from now till next week, we all got to get a gift for Jim for your birthday. Is that fair? Does that count? Breakfast, I think breakfast can cover it for one, right? Birthdays are fun, man. I'm excited to be here. I've only been here one time before, and it was because Stevie woke me up really early in the morning and dragged me here. You can tell that I'm 26 because I got like a hat on indoors. I'm wearing long sleeves and shorts. Do you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. I'm wearing one of those like silicone rings. So I'm clearly a millennial, and that's okay. But I am excited to be here with you guys. Usually I talk to middle schoolers, and I got to tell you, I grew up in a gospel church, and so I got to have you guys talk back to me. So if I say like amen, you would say amen. So if I say amen, you would say amen. That's pretty easy, okay? And I grew up in a gospel church. I found Jesus when I was 17 years old, and it's changed my life from day one. And so the reason I brought up the birthday stuff is because I think birthdays are a blast. Like my wife has a birthday month every year. It's always in April. It cracks me up. And I think birthdays are important. I think that we're like addicted to birthdays, but really the reason I think we like them so much is because we are really like conscious of time. Like birthdays themselves really aren't that crazy. It's just another trip around the sun. It's just another year that you worked at a job. It's just another year that you were with your family. But in reality, it's just another day. But we're so like closed in on this thing called time. And I think really time is super important. I think that we spend a lot of our time worried about time, right? Like we go to church on Sunday and we worry, how much longer is this guy going to talk? You know what I mean? Like for me, like when it's football season, that's what I'm thinking. I work there, okay? And so like sometimes maybe we're worried about time because we're at work and we're just waiting for lunch. Or we're getting ready to wake up in the morning and we keep looking at the clock to see how much longer we can sleep in, right? Or maybe we're worried about time because there's things going on in our life that are coming up. Like, okay, how much longer till I'm married? How much longer till this baby's due? How much longer until like my son comes home? Like those kinds of things. And we're addicted to time. And occasionally I'll work out at CrossFit with Buzzy. Buzzy taught here a couple weeks ago. You guys know him. He's the super yoked guy with tattoos, bald head. And so occasionally Buzzy will drag me to CrossFit. He looks a lot like Marty. And CrossFit is hard for me, dude. Like, it's really hard for me because it's a lot of stuff that I'm not used to. I'm a soccer player, so anytime there's upper body strength needed, I just am bad at it. And so one of these days at CrossFit, we had to do overhead squats and then double under jump ropes, but I'm really bad at double under jump ropes. And so everyone else that was around my age was finishing this workout in like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and I'm at like 42, just like trucking through my 8th round out of 12. And it got to the point where I'm just like closing my eyes, and I'm just like doing these jump ropes. I'm closing my eyes. I'll open up my eyes just for a second to look at the clock to see how much time I have left. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, because I knew that at 45 minutes, they were going to say, all right, you're done. You've hit the time cap. That's the most you can do in 45 minutes. And I knew that at 45 minutes, I could just stop pretending that I wanted to jump rope. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to be doing it, but like, I was trying to look cool. My wife was there. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to look really like strong and buff. And it's just not working for me because double unders are hard. And so like I'm looking at this clock and I'm just hoping that with every single movement, that clock will kind of help me out, right? And we're addicted to time. Like time is something that we use every day. We log our hours at work, especially if we're hourly, we're logging our hours at work. We're logging how long our nap was. We're logging all of this kind of stuff. And we're wondering how much longer it's going to be before we can do the things that we want to do. Like we really focus on it. And the question that I want to ask us today is not what time is it, but what are you doing with that time? I think it's a much heavier question to ask ourselves. It's a much harder thing to really focus on is what are you doing with the time that we've been given? Because I think that what time is it is an incredibly often asked question. Like what time is it when you ask that at 10 o'clock at night, you're asking because you want to know how many more episodes of Netflix you can watch. Do you know what I mean? But in reality, like what are you doing with that time? Because it's an important question. And we get one shot at today. I get one shot at this message. You guys get one shot at this year. So what are we doing with that time? It's far too often that we look back and say, wow, that 6 months went by fast. What did I do with it? It's far too often we look back and say, that was the fastest year of my life. Like, what did I really do with it? And so I challenge us, what do we do with our time? Because I'm thinking back of most of the times in my life I noticed that I don't regret the things I did. I regret the things I didn't do. Do you know what I mean? Like when I look back in my life, I realize I don't regret the things I did do. I regret the things I didn't do. Like I hiked the Appalachian Trail my sophomore year of college. We only had 70 days, so we only did 900 miles instead of the full thing. But I remember there was one day that we stopped in this town in New York. We were stopping to resupply. We were stopping to get some more food, get refueled on our chlorine tablets for the water and stuff like that. And as we're in this town, we walk into a breakfast room similar to this, and we meet the mayor of the town. It was just so random. The mayor's asking us, what are we doing? Why are we hiking the Appalachian Trail? Why do we choose to do this? And we're talking to him, and he invites us over to his house. And we're like, all right, cool. So we go to this mayor's house, which is already something you probably shouldn't do. If you've ever seen a horror movie, you don't follow an old dude to his house if you're in the middle of New York. But we were like, whatever, like we're bored, we'll go do it. And so like we follow this guy to his house, and at his house, they've got this huge concert going on for the whole town. And they've got this concert set up, like the sun's setting over these mountains. People are out on the lake in their little canoes and kayaks watching the music. There's people dancing. Like I felt like it was a Stepford Wives movie, man. Like I was like, this is too perfect. Do you know what I mean? And then later on, he's like, guys, don't worry about hiking back up top. Just stay at my property tonight, which is another thing you don't do in a horror movie, but we did it. And so like we're sitting there, and he's like saying, hey, stay at our house, stay at my property. They're filming a movie there, and the movie crew's coming in tomorrow. Maybe you can meet some of the people. And we're like, all right, cool, sounds great. We wake up the next morning, and we realize that we don't have enough time to stick around to wait for this movie crew to show up. And so we just ask him, like, hey, what movie is it? Who's going to be here? This kind of stuff. He's like, oh, it's a movie called Magic of Belle Isle. Morgan Freeman's going to be here at around 10. Kenan Thompson's going to be here at 11. And I'm thinking, like, okay, I don't care if I'm late. I'm just going to stay. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to meet Morgan Freeman. That's my dream. I'm just going to record him saying a couple things, and anytime that I meet somebody, I'll just play it, and I will be the most popular person in the world. You know what I mean? That's what I thought. Like, if I got a picture of Morgan Freeman in me, it would be my profile picture for like a year and a half. You know what I mean? And so, like, I'm trying to convince my friends, like, let's just stick around, man. Like, we don't have to get back on the trail yet. Let's meet Morgan Freeman. And my friends are all like, nah, dude, we don't have enough time. Like, we got to get going. Like, our next supply drop is 5 days away. We get really kind of got to pick up the pace a little bit. Like, we already wasted some time by sticking around last night. And so we didn't stay. I didn't meet Morgan Freeman. I'm on the trail walking with every step just like huffing and puffing because I'm like, really, man? Like, I could have met a celebrity. And the truth is what I'm talking about today isn't about this idea of like missing out on meeting celebrities or missing out on meeting people that you admire. It's missing out on what God has for you. I think that if I could have stayed, I would have, but I couldn't stay. And I think there's a lot of times like where instead of missing out on small things, we miss out on these great opportunities that God's designed specifically for you. That God created you and said, I want you to do this. And we say, I don't have time. It's not in my wheelhouse. I'm not prepared for it. I'm not ready to do it. And the truth is when we look back later on, we don't get to say like, oh man, like if I could go back, it's like you missed that chance. And I don't want to be somebody, I don't want to be a guy that tells my kids, man, like, oh man, if I could go back, I would do it this way. I don't want to do that to my kid. I want to be somebody that when I look at my kid, I say like, I took every chance that God gave me. When God spoke into my life, I took advantage of it. When he put an opportunity in front of me, I grabbed it. I don't want to say I could have. You know what I mean? I think as men, like it's super important for us to recognize that we have one chance to live in this moment, one chance to live in this week, in this year, and what are we doing with that one shot? And so today I want to look at this story. There's a group of guys in the Bible that did everything they could with their time. They took advantage of their time, absolutely made the best of it. And these weren't guys that were kings. They weren't guys that had everything at their disposal. These were guys that did everything in their power to serve their king. And so I'm saying this because I think that we should be doing everything in our power to serve our king. Amen? Amen. And so we're going to look at this story. We're going to pick up in the very first verse in 2 Samuel chapter 23, verse 1. It says this, these are David's last words. The voice of the son of Jesse, the voice of the man God took to the top, whom the God of Jacob made king and Israel's most popular singer. I always laugh at that last verse because it's like, man, he just had to throw that in there, huh? Do you know what I mean? And here's the thing, like these are the last words of David. We know who David is. He's the second most written about person in the Bible. It's Jesus and then King David. Like that's who's written about the most in the Bible. And so I'm going to say that if David's being referenced and it's the last words that he ever uttered, it's probably pretty important. And so King David is this guy that slayed Goliath. He's this guy that slept with Bathsheba. He's the guy who's after God's own heart. Like, he's this guy that wrote most of the Psalms, and he's written about so much in the Bible that he's vitally important to the way we live our life. And in his last words, the final thing that he talks about are these people that he was closest to. He talks about these people that were called his mighty men, these guys that he went into battle with, his confidants, his best friends, his important allies. And they're not the guys that history remembers. They're not the guys that like history's writing things about. Like David we know, but like do we know Benaniah? Do you know what I mean? And David doesn't forget these people. Like they don't get the credit that they're due. They're almost like these lost boys that just kind of followed around their leader and did everything they could for him. But David recognizes how much they did for him, and he gives them credit. And he knew each and every one of them by names, and he told their stories. And in chapter 23:20, it says this: Benaniah, son of Jehoiada from Casbeel, was a vigorous man who accomplished a great deal. He once killed 2 lion cubs in Moab. Another time on a snowy day, he climbed down into a pit and killed a lion. Now, this guy chased down a lion. I'm not doing that stuff. Amen. I'm scared to chase down a donut because I want to like sleep a little bit longer. Do you know what I mean? And this guy's chasing down lions. And when we read that, we're just like, oh, that's so sweet. He chased a lion, man. Stories are cool. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we don't realize that he like straight up like muscled up and chased down a freaking lion. That's crazy. Like that dude, like if he was in here right now, like we would think he was cuckoo. He'd be like standing in the back with just like a bison skin over his shirt. Like that's all he would be wearing. You know what I mean? Like he wouldn't even order food. He'd just grunt. Like Benaniah is crazy. He's a crazy dude. And lions are insane. Like they can weigh up to 500 pounds. They can leap standing almost 30 feet out, okay? Like they can run at a speed of almost 35 miles per hour. Lions are freaking crazy. They're insane. And this guy, if you're normal, like you don't chase lions. Like if you're a normal human that has like a conscious thought of like, okay, I don't want to die, you don't chase a lion. But this is Benaniah. This guy chases down a lion. And it's almost like a Hollywood movie. You know what I mean? Like picture you're out on a date with your wife or your girlfriend or whatever. Like you're sitting there. It's all dim lights. The screen goes from black to like this foggy screen, like mist. Benaniah is just standing there flexing. He's doing like the Terry Crews like pec muscle move. You know what I mean? Just standing there. And then a lion just like crawls up, all buff, huffing and puffing. It's got like drool dripping down its jaws, blood on the other side, like just freaking crazy looking lion. It's got like tattoos, smoking a cigarette. Do you know what I mean? Like just a crazy lion. Got a bandana, black sheep patch, all that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? And this lion's standing there and it's in the fog and stuff. And Benaniah takes this first step. Do you know what I mean? His first step at this lion. And the lion doesn't jump at him. It doesn't claw at him. It doesn't like beat him up. It starts running away. And this lion starts sprinting away. And a lion can run 35 miles an hour. This guy's not Usain Bolt, okay? And so he's not running 35 miles an hour. Like he's chasing this lion. He's tracking this lion. Every single footstep on that snowy day, he's following the lion's footsteps. And you guys know what the lion's doing? The lion's going straight to its pit because the devil wants to fight you in its territory. You see what I'm saying? The devil's not going to fight you at your strongest point. The enemy's not going to fight you when you're inside that church building. He's going to take you home when you're by yourself. He's going to say, I'm going to take you to my territory. We're going to fight in my pit. That's terrifying. That's terrifying. And this lion's sprinting to this pit, and Benaniah gets to the edge of this cliff, right? He's at the edge, and he's standing there on the edge of this cliff. And it's like that moment where your girlfriend like holds your arm, like, oh, I hope he doesn't jump. You know what I mean? You're sitting there like holding back tears, like, why do I relate with him so much? You know what I mean? And he takes that step back, and everyone in the crowd just, you know what I mean? They all like, eat some popcorn. They're not scared anymore, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden, he starts taking this running jump, and he just like Hulk jumps into the pit. And you just hear screaming and yelling and growls and grunts, like clashes and scratches and all this stuff, you know what I mean? You can't see anything because it's inside that pit. And the whole time you're watching this, you're thinking, I hope Benaniah gets out of that. Like everything in you, everything the world's taught you has taught you that lion's going to crawl out, right? Like everything that you've experienced, you're like, that lion's going to come out winning. But Benaniah, man, like, he grabs onto that pit, man. He lifts himself up, cuts and bruises. And it's a crazy story because, like, I think that Benaniah sounds like the craziest person, and I don't know why he had this idea to chase down lions. But I have a guess. And I don't know if he did it to impress a girl. Like, I don't know if he did it because he had, like, some anger problems. Like, I don't know if it's just, like, he had one of those days where it just didn't work out for him, you know what I mean? But, like, my thought is this. I think he grew up hearing stories about King David. And we talked about King David. King David's on his deathbed, and he's remembering this guy named Benaniah, right? And I think that Benaniah respected King David so much that when he heard stories of David beating the lion, beating the bear, beating Goliath, he thought to himself, I can do the same. And before Samuel was a king, right before he goes into battle, he talks about killing a lion himself. It says, David said, I've been a shepherd tending sheep for my father. Wherever a lion or bear came, I took the lamb from the flock. I'd go after it, knock it down, and rescue the lamb. If it turned on me, I'd grab it by the throat, wring its neck, and kill it. That's David. And Benaniah grew up hearing that. He grew up hearing about how his king was capable of killing this 500-pound lion because that's what you do when you defend your sheep. You see what I'm saying? And Benaniah said, if my king can do that, I can do that. If my king can walk into a pit and kill a lion, I can do that. He showed me that I can do that too. And you can see where I'm going with this. The thing is, this king that he wanted to serve, he wanted to be just like him. He didn't want to just serve him. He wanted to be just like him. He looked at David and said, I want to be like you. There's people in our life that we say that about, right? I mean, I know I'm not the only one. He said, I want to be like you. And the thing is in 2 Samuel 22:3, it says, these are the things that Benaniah, son of Jehoiada, is famous for. But neither did he ever get ranked with the 3. He was held in great respect among the 30. He never got included with the 3, but David put him in charge of his bodyguard. You see, Benaniah was willing to chase this lion. And he got the best honor possible. He got to serve the king placed over the bodyguard. And we learn that Benaniah responds to the lion that's in his life. And I think that we respond to the lions that are in our life, and it determines our destiny. The lions that look at us, whether it's porn addictions, whether it's pride, and we're arguing with our wife because we've got too much pride to be wrong. That lion that's staring us in the face, we have every opportunity to defeat that. We have every opportunity to. And Benaniah does this. He had every reason to run. He had every reason to climb up a tree. He had every reason to cry and call his mommy. But instead, he chases this lion. And if he had run away, he would have missed out on this opportunity to serve the king. And how we respond to the lions in our life will determine our destiny. And I think that we all know what that lion is. Whether it's the lion in the mirror or the lion on our phone, like whatever it is, like we know what that lion is, and we know how easily we lose when we're in its territory. And the thing that's crazy is that maybe that thing in your life you're nervous about, that scary situation, like the tough thing that you need to do, like maybe you feel like it's going to be too difficult, that it's a waste of your time, but I think far too often we waste our time being too safe and too careful. I think we spend too much time being too safe and too careful that we don't actually get the opportunity to fight the lions in our life because we're letting it win by omission. Or we're refusing to fight. And I don't want to miss the opportunity to serve my king. And whether that means being bold at work, being bold in your relationships, being bold at church, taking opportunities to start serving your king, don't miss that chance that God's called you for. I think that our whole life we've been told be careful. I can't tell you how many times my mom told me be home before dark. Do you know what I mean? If you're going to go to the party, make sure that you call me when you get there. My mom was the most precious woman in the world. She loves me. Do you know what I mean? I'm pretty much a golden calf. And the thing is far too often I was too careful. And that's dangerous as Christians, man, to be so careful that we don't actually end up doing anything. I think far too often, we interact with these two types of sins, the sins of commission, which is where we feel guilty about the things we did, and sins of omission, where we feel guilty about the things we never even tried. Do you know what I mean? And I think that we spend so much time focusing on commission, don't smoke, don't do drugs, like don't date girls that do, like all that kind of stuff, that we don't actually do anything for Jesus. But we just follow the rules. And I think that if we just follow the rules, that's fine and dandy, but that's only half of it, guys. We're called to be these mighty men of God, not these mighty, like, rule followers. You know what I mean? We're called to chase down lions, not just, like, reason, like, okay, should we chase down the lion? You know what I mean? And far too often, we do nothing. And I think we should focus less on what we shouldn't be doing and focusing more on what we should. I think that we would find that we live a completely different life. And in my experience, my biggest regrets are the things I didn't do. I regret not witnessing to my friends. I regret not showing up early to Bible studies with people that took time out of their week to be with me. I regret not treating girls and guys with respect in my life. And when I really think about those things, like, there's a lot in my life that I let slip away. And the truth is, a lot of times we give into fear instead of faith. We give into that fear of that lion looking us dead in the eyes, and we think, man, I'm not messing with that. It's easier for us to walk away and then to chase it down. It's easier for us to fake perfection than live authentically. And so we just kind of ignore it. You know what I mean? And to us, I think that faith is this willingness to look foolish. If we look at people in the Bible, faith was really just the willingness to look like an idiot. Benaniah chased a lion. If someone chased a lion today and they was and the lion killed him, we'd be like, well, yeah, you chased a lion. You know what I mean? Noah looked foolish when he built an ark. Sarah looked foolish when she was 90 and pregnant. David looked foolish when he shot a giant with a slingshot. Peter looked foolish when he was stepping out of the boat into a storm. And Jesus looked foolish when he was half naked on a cross. You know what I'm saying? But faith is the willingness to look foolish, because Noah survived the flood. Sarah had Isaac. David killed a giant. Peter walked on water. And Jesus rose from the dead. Amen. Come on. Think about that now for a second. Okay, you know where I'm going. Benaniah chased a lion because his king killed him, right? The king that he served could kill lions, so Benaniah believed he could kill lions too. Your king defeated death. Your king looked death in the face, chased it to its pit, and killed it. And you can do the same. Think about that, man. Benaniah had this king that could kill lions, and we've got this king that can kill death. That is insane. An addiction is less than death. Marriage problems is less than death. Financial problems is less than death. Your king defeats all of it. He defeats all of it, and we should want to be like him, right? We should want to be like that king. If you think that Benaniah looked crazy, beyond a shadow of a doubt, he looked like an idiot, but his king could conquer lions. And he had the faith that he could do the same, and he had a great king, but man, we have a better one. We have a much better one. It says in Acts chapter 2:29, dear friends, let me be completely frank with you. Our ancestor David is dead and buried. His tomb is in plain sight today. But being also a prophet and knowing that God had solemnly sworn that a descendant of his would rule this kingdom, seeing far ahead, he talked of the resurrection of the Messiah. No trip to Hades, no stench of death. This Jesus God raised up, and every one of us are here to witness to it. David had this great king that conquered lions and giants, and our king conquered death. And when you have a king that conquers death, when you hear that, when you know that, nothing should ever be the same. Our lives should look different, and people should be able to tell. Because we're these people that are chasing down that lion and say, my king can defeat you, and so can I. You might not remember this, but there was this older show called Extreme Home Makeover. Some of your wives maybe made you watch it. Do you know what I mean? I watched it, and then I just blamed my mom because I just wanted to watch it. You know what I mean? And what they do, it's pretty emotional. I was kind of into it. But what it is, it's one of these shows where they take this family in need and they completely redo their home. They send them out for a week. They're building it, and it's always crazy. It's I like horses, kind of. And then they have a horse stable inside their living room. They always just take it way too far. And this crew comes in, they're putting in doors, they're putting in theaters, pools, specialized rooms, they're making it amazing. And at the end of the show, they bring that family back. And they get them out of this bus, and the family can't see the house yet, and the whole crowd chants, and they're saying, move that bus, and the bus rolls away. And instead of like panning over to this brand new house, they keep it locked in on the family. The cameramen do. It's brilliant. It's like those people that are like, yeah, I don't watch the bride at the weddings, I watch the groom. Like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. They just keep it locked in on this family. The kids are like jumping up and down. The mom's like chest bumping people. The dad's just like, he's just crying. Got snot bubbles. You know what I mean? And you're looking at them like, dude, these people are nuts. What the heck are they doing, man? Like, these are crazy people. And you're sitting on the couch like, what are they doing? Why are they responding like this? And then they show you this house. And you've heard this story of how they couldn't afford where they were living, or how someone got laid off, or they just have these horrible stories. And you see this house that they're looking at, and then you're like, that's why they're acting like that. That's why they're responding that way. And I think that if we keep living our life, like eventually people will look at us and think we look crazy. If we live our life as people that are like followers of Jesus and saying like, I'm going to serve my king, I'm going to do everything that he can do, we're going to look like idiots. We're going to look stupid. If other guys at your church see you singing out loud with your hands up, oh no, you know what I mean? They see you serving at your church, not because someone begged you to, like, please help us, like, but just because you're like, no, like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a servant. You know what I mean? They see you treat your wife correctly, and they might think you're crazy. Like, when they start complaining about their wife and you don't chime in about yours, do you know what I mean? You probably look a little bit nuts. But the truth is that's because their vision is solely on you. When they start seeing what you're looking at, it's a different story. When they stop looking at what you're doing, who you are, and they start seeing, oh, he's looking at Jesus. That's what he's looking at. That's what he's celebrating. That's what his life is about. You are no longer crazy. We're so scared, right? We're terrified of what will happen if they don't actually look at Jesus. But our lives should be different when we have a king that defeats death. And the truth is that far too often, man, I've refused to be the person that God wants me to because I'm so scared that people won't see it. And I think that at some point, like, we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing with our time? And the truth is that if we're already connected to God, there's a couple things we got to do, because David's talking about these mighty men, right? He's on his deathbed, and he's talking about these people that that had his back. And it makes me wonder, like, who's got mine? Like, what guys in my life am I being transparent with? What guys in my life am I not overcompensating with? What guys in my life, when they challenge me, I respond and say, you're right? Because that's a huge step. It's a huge step, and you got to find those people that you can be honest with and begin to open up with, and you got to find your crew. And it means that you got to serve God at your work. You got to serve God at your house. You got to serve God at your church, and you have to be able to look that line in the face and say, not today. And some of us might be scared. We might not be ready to speak up. We might have fear, but we have to have faith to live in the moment that we've been given. We get one shot, one. We get one moment, and I am not going to be someone who misses it. Let's pray. Jesus, we love you so much. God, I'm thankful for everything that you've given me and everything that you've taken away. Jesus, I just pray that throughout the next week, we would challenge our hearts in what we need to do for you. That, God, that battle that's facing us, that we would begin to look for mighty men that will have our back. That, God, we begin to chase that lion down and say that you don't get to choose my destiny. That, God, we would recognize that you have defeated so much and that you can walk into our life and resurrect anything. Jesus, we love you. In your name I pray these things. Amen.